to worship when you felt like it. Prayed to me when it was convenient for you. Wouldn't study my word half-heartedly. The only time you would finally pick it up and study was when you was going through something. God says, I've been calling you. Yeah. You've received me. You've treated me like I was nothing. You chose to stay with somebody or with something, and you chose them over me. When I called you, you wouldn't answer back. Y'all seeing this? There's gonna come a time. I don't care how good that frog is to you right now. I don't care how wonderful that frog makes you feel. It's still a frog. Y'all see what I'm saying? And the frog in Egypt represented pestilence and judgment against the Egyptians. Who in their right mind want to stay in something that they're going to be judged harshly for? You see what I'm saying? Remember when Jesus said, what would a man profit if he would gain the whole world? Yeah. And then lose his soul? Is that frog worth your soul? Is it that good to you that you're willing to risk eternity in hell over some frogs? Hello in here. God said, because ye have set my counsel at nothing, and with none of my reproof, verse 26, I will also laugh at your calamity. Because trouble is coming, baby. Frogs don't bring nothing but trouble. And he said, I'm going to laugh at your calamity. I'm going to mock when your fear comes. He said, when your fear cometh as a desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. That's God saying that. That ain't Tillman saying that. God said, you can refuse me so many times, but I'll turn you over to yourself. And when you do call me, I'll be nowhere to be found. Y'all saying this? They shall seek me early, but shall not find me. Why would you treat them like that, Lord? Verse 29, for they hated knowledge, did not choose the fear of the Lord. The time I gave them to change, they refused to change. Sitting there being stubborn, sitting there thinking that you got the world by the tail, not knowing the world got you by the tail and by the throat too. Amen up in there. It's serious business to refuse God's commands. God said they hated knowledge. Didn't choose the fear of me. They were none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their own way. I know you're familiar with the term, you made your bed hard, not lie in it. But the Bible says you planted some bitter fruit, now eat it. Y'all understand that? These reaping and sowing analogies, these agricultural lessons that we understand that you will reap what you sow. If you sow bad seeds, you're going to reap a bad harvest. And God said you're going to have to sit there and endure that bad harvest because I ain't going to hear you. Don't ever turn your ears and your heart away from God. Stubbornness will cause a man to spend one more night with the frogs. Then number two, selfishness. Look back with me at our text. And let me show you how selfish Pharaoh was. Yes, sir. In verse number 8, he says, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me. Not just from me. Y'all get this? Yes, sir. Not just from me. Y'all got to get it? Yes, sir. Because it's affecting more than just you. Y'all hear this? bad harvest, when you're having to deal with the frogs, you ain't the only one dealing with the frogs. Pharaoh said, take away the frogs from me and from my people. Y'all seen this? Pharaoh sat here and acknowledged the fact that he knew his people, his family, his servants, all of these folk were affected by the decision that he was making. He didn't care enough about them to say, Moses, get these frogs away from my family. Get these frogs away from my people and away from my servant. In his own selfishness, he was just concerned about having his way. When you're trying to have your way, you'll spend another night with the frogs. He didn't even consider the fact he wasn't the only one suffering. He wasn't the only one having to deal with this pestilence and this plague. And so what I'm telling you to do is don't be so caught up in your own self-destruction that you can't see the effect that your habit, that your addiction, that your hang-up and your hard-headedness is having on other folk around you. When you do affect somebody else, other folk are having to suffer. Because you've chosen to spend another night with the frogs. Your children are having to deal with the effects of the frogs. And they didn't even plant the seed to have the frogs even come their way. They are casualties of your own war. Your family members are having to deal with stuff and having to work through situations that they shouldn't have to deal with or try to work through because you decided to spend another night with the frogs. And when reality sets in, it's going to be a dark and desolate look at the danger and the destruction that you have caused in your own family. Pharaoh knew he wasn't the only one dealing with these frogs. He at least could have asked Moses, take them away right now on their behalf. But because he was so selfish, mercy, Lord, because he was only caught up in what he wanted, he made everybody else spend another night with the frogs. Are you that selfish in your dealing, in your life? Do you not look at the casualties of your own war that you started because of your own rebellion against God? Don't you realize that there are more folk hurting than just you by the actions that you are willingly continuing to participate in? It's more than just you. The Bible informs us in Romans chapter 14 and verse number 7 that none of us live to ourselves and none of us die to ourselves. It simply means that what we do will affect other people. Absolutely. And so we ought not be so selfish that we can't see that other people have to deal with what we choose to deal with. When you can't see the damaging effect that you're having on others, you're so full of selfishness that you'll destroy others around you while you are destroying yourself. Spending one more night with the frogs. Stubbornness will keep a man with the frogs. Selfishness will keep a man with the frogs. And then finally, sinfulness. Can I preach a minute? Will keep you with the frogs. The deceitfulness of sin will cause you to stay in an unhealthy situation. If sin has become your master, in other words, if you yielded yourself to sin, Romans 6:12 talks about the fact that to whom you yield yourself, a servant to obey, his servant you are. To whom you choose to obey. If you choose to obey sin, sin has become your master.